Okay,
Mhm.
I'll walk you guys through from start to finish the process that would be associated with me registering the gavel David Lawless Esquire. And if anyone's out there listening and they decide to do this themselves, I am going to object to this, and I'm going to say that you got this idea from me on the Indie Mayhem show.
Yeah, we have
But
we
so
have prior art right here. This is a
yeah,
record.
so what I would do if I was registering this trademark myself, not being a lawyer, I would go to the USPTO website. I would look at the trademark registry. I would first look at existing copyrights for professional wrestlers,
Mm,
CM Punk, AJ Styles, what have you. I would look at how those names are actually designated in the trademark office. Okay. Then I would search for the name that I'm looking to trademark. In my case, it would be the gavel David Lawless Esquire. If nothing pops up on the database, if it doesn't hit anything, then that goes to show that no one owns the trademark and no one's applied for the trademark in that name. So I know that I'm good to apply for a trademark in that name. So I would download the application from the USPTO website. I would fill it in. I would make sure I check the proper designation boxes for what I want that designated as, and I would submit that. And I believe the cost of filing for a name trademark is about $275. I think it fluctuates between 275 and $400 or $500,
mhm.
depending on how many different types or designations you're registering. What I would also make sure that you have is some type of screenshots associated with your use of that. So if it's match graphics from promotions, if it's thumbnails of you doing videos on YouTube, just to show that you, the person that's registering the trademark, has actually used the trademark in commerce. If you have T-shirts that have your name on it, you would put a picture of the T-shirt. So once you actually register that trademark, what happens is the trademark gets assigned to an employee of the USPTO administrative agency, and that agent then is your trademark agent. So if they have any questions or there's deficiencies in your application, they will reach out to you and give you a chance to cure it. But then the next phase, which this is really the phase where everyone gets the information that we talked about before, anytime there's a trademark that's registered for, there is what's known as a comment or objection period. Okay, so this is where Mr. Connard learned that Sean Spears had registered for that trademark. And this is how websites can pick this up because I think it's weekly or bi weekly, it might even be monthly. The Federal Register puts out it's almost a newspaper, an online publication that has a listing of every single trademark that's been applied for. So a lot of big companies that trademark a lot of big things, like the WWE, probably have dedicated staff that go through these registers to see what's been registered and if they need to object to it. And so once that advertisement is put out by the register, there's an objection period. So I think it's a 60-day objection period possibly, and then if no one objects to the use of the trademark, or files an objection to the use of the trademark, then the trademark is granted and you have the right to use that mark. The reason why Matt Connard is right in his assessment that Sean Spears probably applied for that trademark prior to January is because by the time Mr. Connard learned of the trademark application, I think was it early January or mid January, Matt?
It was early January. I honestly distinctly remember. I think it was January 11th
Yeah, and I
when I
remember
found
you
out.
calling me when the article
Yeah,
came out.
yeah.
So look, I don't want to sit here and speculate, and I don't want this to be perceived as us disparaging Mr. Spears in any way. But it wasn't like January 11th he woke up and said, "I'm filing a trademark for the Reaper," and it got out to the press that way. He probably filed that application, I would have to guess, at some point in November or December, and because of the name the Reaper and being probably a commonly used one, I would imagine he filed that probably sometime in November, and it got to the objection period
Mhm.
by January. So he had gone through and had an agent registered to him. But so you'll have situations where people will register trademarks and then people will object, and sometimes there's administrative hearings that are held where testimony is taken by that agency, and then ultimately the decision of the US Patent and Trademark Office can be challenged in court, but I believe you actually have to exhaust the administrative remedies at your disposal before, as a precedent to filing a lawsuit. So the thing I will say to people that want to file for a trademark in whatever gimmick they have is that it's going to cost you a little bit of money up front. I think you can pay by credit card, and you could probably get points on your credit card for paying for it. You may not be successful, but it's going to cost you exponentially more to go through the process of fighting it, because not only would you likely have to hire a lawyer and call information together to object, but if you're successful, then you probably will have to pay for the trademark itself. So you're
Mm.
actually incurring double the fees you would if you didn't just, pop on the website and do the application.